Hello, everyone. This is Josefina with Magnificent Mommas and Magnificent Authors Podcast. We have author Miss Christina here to talk about her book. You want to tell us something about him?
About myself or the book or?
Well, about yourself would be great, and then we can start talking about the books.
Okay, well, I'm obviously a writer. I have 4 young adult books published. This most recent being the 4th one. I've been writing for several years. Well, most of my life, actually. You know, once I could put a pencil to paper and form words, I've been writing. I was remembering yesterday how when I was a kid, my sisters and I would write plays and then put them on for my mom and dad. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I really only remember one, but I know we did it a couple times. But then I got married pretty much right out of high school and had my first child like a year later. So any writing aspirations that I had kind of got put on hold because when you're raising 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, you're kind of busy.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah. I've got 3 of my own that live with me and 1 that lives with my mom. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, so raised them, got them to, my daughter was in high school and the 2 boys were in college or on their way in the world. And I had just graduated from college myself in 97. And I was working in an industry that I didn't really like. Well, I liked it, but they didn't like me, I guess is the way to look at it, because they laid me off.
Oh, well, you know, there's that.
So I fooled around got hooked up with somebody who was running a mortgage company or something, but numbers are not my strong point, and I wasn't getting paid and nothing was happening. And lo and behold, I got pregnant with my 4th child. And this is 17 years after my first daughter was born.
Oh, goodness.
So we had no baby stuff, you know, it was all teenage stuff, and it was learning to, you know, be a mom all over, well, not all over again, but learning to be a baby's mom all over again. And I had been a stay-at-home mom with the first 3, so we decided, okay, that's what we were going to do with this last one. But what I had found since I had been out in the world, going to school and then working for a little while, that I needed, not that the baby, I mean, she's one of my pride and joys, obviously, but I needed something a little bit more. So I took a writing class at the Institute of Children's Literature, and that was through the mail. Really cool. So I didn't have to go anywhere to do it. I could stay home, take care of my baby, and then the rest is pretty much history. I took a couple classes with them, and then I submitted a couple children's articles, but writing for little kids just didn't seem to be, because I always have so much more to tell than you can put in a children's book.
Yeah, I've noticed that children's books are pretty short. At least most of them are pretty short.
Yeah.
Unless they're for like older kids.
Right. So then I played around with writing for women, adults, but I still didn't feel very comfortable there. So I started writing for young adult, which is like 14 to 18, right in that space, you know, the end of middle school, high school, and the beginning of college years. And suddenly I'd found my niche.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing ever since, is writing young adult fiction. So you know that I'm a mother of 4. They're all out of the house now. So I have a lot more time to spend doing my writing and other things. We're active in our church. I volunteer at the library, and I teach online without school, although that's kind of been fading off recently. And I'm trying to get in with Homeschool Connections. I sent them an application, but they haven't got back to me yet. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, so what are your books called?
The first 3 are a series, and they're called The Palace of 12 Pillars, Palace of the 3 Crosses, and Sanctuary of 9 Dragons.
Okay, so you said that's young adult fiction. Is that fantasy?
Yes, they are fantasy.
Okay, I must say the names of it sounded pretty fantasy.
Yeah.
Are they on Kindle Unlimited, or are they do you have ebooks available, paperbacks, hardback?
Yeah, everything's available on Amazon.
Well, I might have to check those out. I might be in my 30s, but I still read young adults. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do too. So, and I'm a few years older than you. And then the fourth book, my newest book that was just released in January, although I'll have a little story to tell you about that one eventually, is Dragon Disciples Resurrection, and this is what it looks like.
Oh.
And it is also available on Amazon. The only thing, a new publisher just picked me up, and we're going to relaunch the book July 9th. We're going to relaunch the book.
Okay. Well, if you would like, we do have launch packages available. I don't know if you've seen any of that on our website or not, but we do have launch packages available. If you or your publisher would like to purchase those, we do have those available. So just to let you know.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement by any means. We will still promote. I just wanted to let you know in case you were interested. What got you into writing? Like what really interests you about your writing and your writing process?
Well, like I said, initially when my youngest daughter was born, it was just a desire to have something else in my life. And I had written, like I said, when I was in high school, I wrote for the school newspaper. I actually wrote for a little local newspaper. A bunch of us students went down and we had columns in the local newspaper. So I've always been kind of interested in it. I felt it was something that I could do well. I mean, everything else I tried, my degree at college was in interior design, and it just didn't quite click. I mean, I wasn't terrible at it, but it wasn't something that I felt great about. Whereas with my writing, I do. I feel really good about my writing, and the more I do it, the better I feel. Also, when I was doing the interior design, when I was working at the lumber store, when I was working for the kitchen design place, I hadn't really consulted, you can stop me if I'm stepping on toes or something. I hadn't consulted God about my plans. I just went ahead doing what I thought I wanted to do. And it's kind of funny, when I got pregnant with my last daughter, and like I said, there had been 17 years between the girls, and I thought, God's sitting up there laughing at me because I was too complacent, too set in ways that I hadn't talked to him about, and he ended up kind of pushing me towards writing. I love writing for younger people, and even on my website, my mission statement states that when I started writing, when the first 3 books were published, it was at the time when Divergent and Hunger Games and all those books had come out, and they all seemed so dark. And there didn't seem to be a faith in a higher power. Dystopian is a good word for it, because that's exactly what it was. Everything was so dark and destroyed. And I just wanted to show young people that there was alternatives, that the world doesn't have to be dark, forbidding. And, obviously you're going to have, I don't want to say battles, but you're going to have challenges in your life, but it's not going to be like those books were. So my goal was to just show teenagers, young people, that there was something else out there.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be like that. I personally like the darker stuff just because, I don't know, maybe I have a morbid personality. But I do kind of like the darker stuff. I like the Divergent, I like the Hunger Games and stuff like that. But I also like, the Warrior series.
Well, I mean, there was Harry Potter. That's not a bad series.
Yeah, I loved Harry Potter.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. But, and I don't dislike Hunger Games, Divergent. I loved Harry Potter, so we won't go there. But those darker ones, I mean, I've read them. I watched the movies. I always, and even like Batman, the movies, they've gone to I really liked, when I was a kid, the old Batman television show. Bang and pow. And I mean, it was just a little bit lighter and funnier.
Yeah, it's the lighter versions of everything. And
yeah,
I agree. Sometimes that is needed because a lot of young people, young adults, they see all of the darker things, and I don't want to say that they start to think like that, but they tend to sort of see that as a inevitability.
Yeah.
Almost. And
kind of what I was gearing for was to show young people that there is a choice, that they don't have to go down that road. They can choose a lighter sentence. That's not a good way to put it, but there is.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, What is the most challenging scene you've ever had to write, and how did you tackle it?
Okay, that's probably going to be in this, my newest. And because of this scene, we're going to have to put a trigger warning, an NC-17 on the book, because well, I'll give you a little bit of background. In fact, I'll read you the dub, and then I can go on to explain. I'll read the back cover, and then I'll go on to explain. When the head of an ancient Samaritan family is injured, it throws the family into turmoil. There isn't enough money to pay for the hefty Roman taxes. The daughter Chana is taken as compensation and forced into slavery inside a cruel centurion's home. As a slave, Chana witnesses the miracles of Yeshua. They give her hope as she stands up to the abuses of the centurion's children and survives unspeakable atrocities. Unaware of her family's presence in Jerusalem, the holy city brings nothing but horror when Chana witnesses the crucifixion at the hands of the Romans, Yeshua's crucifixion at the hands of the Romans. While struggling to overcome her traumas, Naphtali, Chana's brother, is taken as a slave in the same house as Chana. Their fate to live as slaves seems impossible to overcome until they are rescued by the dragon sent from God. But all is not easy as their faith journey continues. They will encounter obstacles designed to prevent them from becoming dragon disciples, faithful followers who spread and protect the word of God. So as you heard me mention, Chana, the main character, experiences some tortures and some nasty things. One of them is she is raped by the centurion's son. So that was really hard to write because I didn't want to get into the whole act of it. So how do I come across so the reader knows that's what's happening? So I had him initially confront her and knock her down, kind of attack her and start the process. But I didn't follow through. I didn't have the whole explanation of what happened. Yes, I had her black out. It's basically what happened.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of had to like fade to black a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. But it was really hard to decide how much of that can I write. And it's young adults. So, and like I said, we're actually going to put a trigger warning on the books when they come out in July saying, hey, if you're under 17, you probably don't want to be necessarily, or like, right. Yeah. And even for the adults, because I mean, my audience is YA, yes. But I also think the NA, new adult, those college age kids, and also adults can read this, because the one thing about writing in first century Israel is those teens were much more mature than the teens of today.
Right.
So the things that are happening to them will appeal to adults as well as children, or as well as the young adults, I believe.
Okay. When you are developing your characters, are they inspired by real people or are they completely fictional?
Well, I have a mix actually in this book. In my first 3 books, they were all fictional because it was fantasy on another world with dragons and dwarfs. And so they were all pretty much fictional. This book, though, because we're talking about Samaritans, we're talking about Yeshua, we're talking about the apostles. So it's kind of a mix because Chana and her brother, her family, a centurion, some of the people she comes in contact with are fictional, but she also comes in contact with Yeshua, and the apostles and Mary. And so I kind of had to watch with those ones. And that kind of created some obstacles for the writing too, because I wanted to stick to the timeline of Jesus' 3 years on earth. And then the girl gets pregnant from the rape. And so I had to line things up so that would all work out. She was pregnant for 9 months. She has a baby. Yeah. Historical fiction or historical fantasy presents a whole new gambit of things you need to think about. But yeah, so there were some real characters, and I kind of have followed a little bit. I don't know if you've watched The Chosen, but I've been watching it since it came out. So I kind of picked up on some of the more personal things they've done with Jesus, because when you go to church on Sunday and listen to the Gospels being read, or you're involved in anything with your religion, it's just a story. You don't hear all the nuances, how the people interacted. So I was kind of trying to do that. Like I had Jesus wink at the main character a couple times, or smile at her, or comfort her, when she was going through things. So yeah, that presented a little bit of a challenge, taking those real life characters and actually giving them a little bit of life.
Yeah, giving them a little bit of essence to go with it. Yeah. Do you have any advice to give any aspiring authors or people who are just starting their writing journey?
Well, the first thing I would say is if someone tells you you can't do it, don't listen to them. And the second piece of advice I would give is sit down, get your hands on the keyboard or a pencil and paper in hand and just write.
Just write. I've heard that a lot. Is just write. Don't worry about anything.
The kids I teach, my goal when I'm teaching is to tell the kids, first of all, I want them working on their story. I'm not going to say, this is what I want you to do, go home and make up some character. I actually want them working on a character that they're going to put in a story. So my goal is to have them write the story to the end or to wherever we end up getting it to. And then I do later in the course, towards the end, after I've gone through the structure of the story and how to put things together. At the very end, I don't do grammar. I'll leave that to somebody else. But I do cover two things that are really important, I think, and that's having active verbs, using active verbs, making your characters active. And that ties right into show, don't tell, which takes a whole nother half hour to explain. But
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on that myself when writing my story. And
the one thing I tell them, even though, I've taught them this stuff, I tell them, when you're writing that first draft, just write. Don't worry about this stuff that I'm telling you now. That will come in the second draft. That will come after I've gone through and highlighted all those state of being verbs. So you can find a way to change the sentences and use the active verbs. And
it comes after me going through all of your stuff and being like, no, and handing it back to you and telling you to fix it.
Right. Although unfortunately, I haven't had the honor of seeing their fixed versions because the class usually ends and then they go off. Although I do have follow-up courses, and I have one student that I've been working with for a couple of years now, and I think we're working on like her fourth or fifth novel. And so I've seen some of her work and how it gets changed. And I've also seen her progression and how she's grown, even to think of things when she's doing that first draft and to remember and try not to use the state of being verbs or to show me in. So, but other times I don't get to see it because they're always working on the first draft when I work with them. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes me sad. I would want to see, how they progress. I'm glad you're able to see the one that you work with and how she's progressing and everything like that. But that would make me sad. You work with all of these students to try to help them, and you don't get to see their final product.
Yeah, it is kind of sad. And in 2020, I taught quite a few students. I'm to a point now where I only have two students that I'm working with. One is the one that I've been working with for a long time, and the other is a very talented young lady, and we are just on the beginning of the journey. So,
do you have paid courses, or is it just like a class that you can sign up for? What is the class?
OutSchool is initially, I think it was set up to service the homeschool industry, but then when 2020 happened, all those kids, of course, didn't have school, so they came to OutSchool. I do charge for my classes, but OutSchool takes their cut from what I charge, and I do semester-long classes, and I also do like a weekly class where the student can come and go. But OutSchool's also in the process of making some transitions, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay with them depending on how the transitions turn out. But that's why I'd like to get into Homeschool Connections, because I think that would be a good place to be.
Okay. Well, if you do leave OutSchool and decide to go somewhere else or to do a different, what is the word? My brain just completely fogged up on. If you decide to go a different direction, I guess I should say, let us know. Email us and let us know, because even if Heather is not wanting to be a part of it, I most definitely will. Not to say that she wouldn't be interested, because I'm sure she would. But, even if she's not, I definitely am.
Okay.
That would be Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. Let's see. We're just about out of time. So let me ask one last question here. What is your favorite part of the writing process and why?
It's funny because a lot of people will say, oh, they enjoy the revision stage, which is second draft and beyond. I really enjoy writing the book initially, doing that first draft. And the reason I say that is because I'm not a plotter. I do not plot my books. So
you're a pantser. Yes.
The characters are taking me on a journey when I'm writing that first draft. And it's so fun to see where the characters are going to take. Now, admittedly, I'm in revision stage for a couple of novels right now. And it's fun, but it's just not as fun as that initial stage.
Yeah.
That initial writing.
I totally understand that. That makes sense. We wrote the majority of our book, pantsing it the whole way. And we finally got to the point at the end where we kind of had to plot just like the major events in each chapter that are going to be happening. We can write whatever else on top of that. But like the events that we know need to happen in each chapter, we kind of wrote that out just a little bit. We've still got like 20 chapters left to write. But yeah, the first initial being like, okay, so this is what's going to happen here. This is what's going to happen here. That was the best part because I visualize it in my head. Like I kind of see it as a movie.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Now, actually trying to put the rest of the chapters on the page is becoming a little bit difficult. But we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. That I was telling my writers group this morning. I'm in the process of polishing Resurrection before the launch in July. And while I'm doing that, there's a second book that's partially written that I need to finish up and get to them at some point. And while I'm doing these revisions, I'm getting all kinds of ideas that I need to put in the next book. So it's cool. I mean, because, they're both working together and spurring the ideas. And I get what you're saying. I tried at one point, in fact, I did this in November during NaNoWriMo. I had the first book in my series written. The third book was pretty much written. And for some reason, I decided, things changed from the first book to the third book. So I decided I needed to get the second book written so I could, explain the changes, not have
like make the transition book kind of.
Yeah. So you think, okay, I know what's going to happen in the beginning. I know what happens in the end. This middle part should be easy. So I did an outline. A week into NaNoWriMo, my characters shut up. They would not tell me anything.
Oh, no.
I finally had to throw the outline out and just let them have their way because the story wasn't going anywhere if they weren't telling it.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is the outline is kind of screwing me up a little bit. I mean, I'll figure it out, and I know I will, but it's kind of screwing me up. So I might have to talk to my co-author and be like, so I think we should toss the rest of this and just kind of see where things go. Yeah. We'll see what she says, because we know where we want the book to end and how we want the book to end. Or this book, I guess I should say. It's just a matter of how do we want it to get there. All right. Well, thank you, Miss Christina, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I wasn't completely sure when I saw Magnificent Mommas. I wasn't quite sure how that...
Yeah, we are just wanting to promote all authors, any genre, all genres, helping promote authors and small businesses and everything. So, everyone is welcome. We just want to interview and ask some questions and get to know everybody a little bit.